One day, a group of children are walking by a row of fields as they all listen to the coolest kids yap about how a guy from Tokyo will be coming to his house. The cool kid is Yataro, the son of an inn owner in the village. The other kids are just bumpkins from a small village, so they think Yataro is very cool for meeting with a man from a big city like Tokyo. As they are passing by, they notice Kabane working his ass off in the fields, so being the dumb kids they are, inflates Yataro's ego and asks him to bully Kabane because he smells like shit. Yataro wants to become cool, so he insults Kabane by calling him a smelly orphan and orders him to stay away from the man that will be coming from Tokyo. Kabane, who is used to this, just agrees with him as he doesn't care about anything in his life. He has the ideology of Orphan that he has no enemies. Later, the man from Tokyo arrives as Yataro said, but unfortunately, his car's tire gets punctured, so he waits on the road to get help from a passerby. After a while, a van stops by, and from inside a woman speaks out and asks if he is the detective from Tokyo. The man nods as the lady asks him to come sit with her in the van as she briefs him on the case. There has been mysterious killing of chickens happening in this town, as a few dead bodies of chicken were found rotten and looking disgusting. The woman requests him to fix the problem, and in return, he will get what he asked. The man, who is now introduced as the genius detective, Kohachi, understands the case as they reach the town and head to the house of the lady, which is the only inn in the town with a hot spring. Kohachi is checking around when he finds Kabane working in the fields, getting all sweaty and dirty. He waves at him, but Kabane just nods and doesn't even reply. Kohachi just thinks of him as a hard worker or a person who is shy to meet new people, leaving him alone. He heads back to the lady to ask who that boy was, but the inn lady doesn't answer him and just leaves him hanging by saying that she will tell him later. Later at night, Kohachi is having a nice and relaxing bath in the hot springs when Yataro comes inside with an expression similar to that of a shy maiden. He asks Kohachi if he can rub his back out, and Kohachi agrees without any hesitation. While he is being rubbed out, he asks Yataro about Kabane, but Yataro asks him to leave him alone as he is just a smelly orphan whose parents abandoned him for being too smelly. Kohachi is surprised as Yataro continues to yap on about how he wants to move to the city and live his big dreams there. Kohachi is fed up and leaves the bathroom after taking a shower. He wears his clothes and heads to the inn lady and asks her to assign Kabane to him instead of Yataro. Yataro is angry and feels like a bride who was abandoned just the next day after the marriage. The inn lady doesn't know his reasoning but still places Kabane to care for Kohachi in place of Yataro. Later, Kabane learns about this from the inn lady, who orders him to get washed up, so at least he isn't dirty even though he remains as smelly as ever. After changing into his clean clothes, he takes the food and brings it out to Kohachi. He serves him the food and is about to leave, but Kohachi stops him and has him sit in front of him. He then asks Kabane if he knows something about the chicken's mystery. Kabane tells him that he does know it, as the bodies of those chickens were buried by him. He also mentions that this happens every night before the night of the new moon. Kohachi finally has some lead as he thanks Kabane for his assistance. However, Kabane feels off as Kohachi is the first person who has ever talked to him without commenting about his body odor. Kohachi laughs it off as he tells him that it's just the odor of a hard-working man and nothing to feel bad about. This makes Kabane happy, as no one has said such good things to him before. In the following few days, Kohachi spends all his time doing daily things with Kabane. This makes the inn lady and her son Yataro, who wanted to be cool amongst his friends, confused and even angry, especially Yataro. One such day, Kohachi has just finished working with Kabane as he sits on the ground and complains about how hard it is to work in fields. Kabane calls him a loser and gives him your average Gen Z, skill issue plus L plus ratio remark. Kohachi just laughs it off, but curiously he asks Kabane about the rock that he is wearing on his neck. Kabane tells him that it's been on him ever since childhood and it was probably left behind by his parents. Kabane gives it to Kohachi, who examines the stone carefully and comes to a realization that it's a rare life stone which is quite precious. He also mentions that he wasn't probably abandoned and there is a chance of him getting able to meet his parents in the future. Hearing this, life returns to Kabane's eyes as he nods in agreement that he would also like to meet his parents. Later that night, Yataro finally manages to find Kabane alone. He starts to lash at him for being too close to Kohachi, as it should have been him, not Kabane, who is nothing but a smelly orphan. However, unlike before, Kabane gets offended for being called an orphan as he has finally done confirmation that his parents may be alive. Yataro looks at him as if he's gone crazy and takes the locket from his neck and calls him stupid for wearing that. Kabane loses control and punches Yataro in the face. Yataro feels angry and is about to get back, but he sees that Kabane has transformed into a ghoul-like creature which frightens him, so he runs off. Kabane grabs back the locket and returns to normal. At that same time, Kohachi, who has very sensitive ears, hears this commotion and arrives on the scene. He finds Kabane sitting behind a shed crying. Kohachi confronts him when Kabane breaks down and informs Kohachi that it was him who was the monster. Kohachi isn't surprised, as if he knew everything. He asks Kabane to embrace himself as he pulls down his pants and pulls out his massive tail. It's a tail resembling that of a furry animal. If it was America, Kabane would have thought of him as being a furry, but this is Japan, so Kabane believes that it's probably real. Kohachi explains to him that there are these weird ghoul-like creatures in this world called Kamino. Normally they stay away from humans, but in recent times, they changed and started to mate with humans. This resulted in people like Kabane and Kohachi, who are called Hanyo. He also tells him that the odor of his body and his transformation are characteristics of a Hanyo, and that he too has that, as he can conjure guns out of thin air. He also tells him that the stone in his neck protects him and stops him from transforming, so he can act like humans. On the other side, Yatero is escaping and trying to make it home and tell everyone that Kabane is a demon. On his way, he thinks about the time when he accidentally killed Kabane, but the next day, he was found alive as if nothing happened. At first, Yatero thought that he was hallucinating, but seeing him turn into a monster this time made him believe what he saw that day. Just then he is attacked by a bunch of rotting zombies like wolves. Back to Kabane and Kohachi. They are just talking about things when they hear a loud noise and head towards its direction, where they find Yotaro about to be eaten by the zombie wolves. Combining both of their strengths, they defeat the wolves when suddenly a giant deer-like ghoul appears out of the forest, who is the real culprit behind the mysterious chicken death. Once again, they both combine their strengths and kill the ghoul. After picking up the fainted Yotaro on his shoulders, Kohachi informs Kabane about the fact that he was hired by his aunt to kill him. She knew his true identity, so she wanted him gone. Kabane asks him to finish him off, as life isn't even worth living. But before doing that, Kohachi asks him if he wants to meet his parents. This time, Kabane answers no, as Kohachi shoots him point blank on the forehead. After a while, he drops Yotaro at the inn, and the dead boy of Kabane as well. He asks if he can take him away for the cremation process. The inn lady just asks him to take it away, as she breaks down and starts crying. Later, Kabane wakes up as he learns from Kohachi that he isn't dead, but his old self is indeed dead, and now he will live with him in the grand city of Tokyo. He then takes Kabane to his office, where he is amazed at seeing everything. But first, Kohachi gives him perfume so he can mask his odor, as well as some casual clothes to change into. After changing his clothes, Kabane is looking forward to his new life when the door of the office opens as two kids come inside. However, their eyes fall on Kanabe as they ask him to identify himself. Kabane introduces himself calmly as the arrogant boy asks him about his age. Kabane answers that he is 13 years old, which makes the boy feel proud, as he is 14 and 1 year older than him. He then introduces himself as Shiki, and the other kid introduces himself as Akira. Kohachi lets them finish their introduction as he tells them about the world they live in, which is inhabited by monsters called kimonos. These kimonos are allowed to roam in darkness, but if they meddle with humans, people like Kohachi are called to take care of them. These people are called kemonists. Shiki, who already knows all of this, asks Kohachi as to why is Kabane here. Kohachi answers that Kabane is a Hyono and that he will be staying here. At first, Shiki is shocked that Kabane is a hypno, as he is also a hypno. However, he still doesn't like him and gets mad when he notices that Kabane is wearing his hoodie. Kabane wants to take it off, but Shiki disdainfully tells him that he doesn't need it now, as he is already wearing it. He then leaves in anger as Akira assures Kabane that Shiki isn't a bad child, just an immature one. However, Kabane keeps staring at him, so Akira asks him if something's wrong. Kabane rizzes him by saying that he can't believe there exists such a beautiful girl. Akira gets confused and then gets shy as he corrects Kabane that he is a boy. Later, Akira is lying down on his bed as he posts on social media how heartbroken he truly is by other people judging him as a girl. His simps start to console him the next moment he posts the picture. Downstairs, Shiki is eating his pizza as he watches Kabane stare at him. He doesn't like it and just asks him to eat. Kabane grabs a slice and eats weirdly, as he has never had a pizza before. This causes Shiki to laugh at him, but he forgets that he wanted to have a cold demeanor with him, so he leaves in anger once again. He goes to his bed and complains to Akira about why he hasn't still bullied Kabane yet. Akira tells him that he doesn't want to and that he is going to sleep. However, Shiki finds it weird as Akira has never gone to sleep without taking a bath first. This makes Akira angry as he reminds him that he is a boy and all boys do this once in a while. Later, Kabane is walking through the hallway when he trips on a string and falls. That string belongs to Shiki's ability, as he informs him that it won't break until Shiki himself decides to break it. However, Kabane doesn't care as he still walks right through it even though it cuts his leg. Shiki was horrified when he noticed the wound on his leg. He wants to say something but stops once he notices the wound heals in a few moments. Seeing this, he decides to not mess with Kabane. The following day, Kohachi takes the group to the location where an incident has taken place. It's most likely to be the work of a kimono, so the police called for them. Kohachi arrives at the scene as the police welcome them. They head inside the old house where they find the policemen who tell them that a mother and a child were attacked by strange kimono in the form of bugs. A policeman went in to help them, but he got swallowed too. After getting the briefing, Kohachi wants to burn the whole location down as dealing with infection-type kimonos is very dangerous as they spread too quickly. However, the two children of the family cry as they tell them that their brother and mother may still be alive. Hearing this, Shiki volunteers to use his web string ability to catch all the insects. However, it proves to be ineffective as bugs eat through the webs. Seeing this, Kabane volunteers to go inside and do the thing. Kabane is a Hyono and he has no blood, so this doesn't affect him. He notices the source of kimono is a pair of shoes, so he grabs them and the bugs disappear. Later, the team learns from the elder brother that he stole the shoes from a shop because his younger brother's shoes were completely torn off and he had no money to buy a new pair. Kohachi asks him to return it as it's not good to steal things. Afterward, Kabane tells Kohachi that he wants to find his parents after learning how the mother saved her child from the kimono attack by risking her life. Kohachi rubs his hand as he promises to look for them in the future. Later at night, Shiki opens up to Kabane and tells him that his mom was a spider-type kimono and left him after he was born. Kabane asks Shiki if he ever wants to look for her, but he doesn't get a positive response. However, Kabane advises him to keep looking for her as she might still be alive. On the other hand, Kohachi is on a call with a mysterious woman named Yoko who is quite interested in Kabane. The following day, Kohachi gives a mission to the kids. The mission is to head to the police station and meet Yoko there. He informs them that Yoko is a fox-type Hyono and warns them so they will be cautious. He also gives Kabane a lucky charm so he will be safe outside. Later, the group heads to the police station as Kabane walks through the busy streets of Tokyo for the first time. He is so shocked to see everything and how crowded it is. While they are on their way to the police station, Yoko also arrives at the police station as all the people welcome her in. However, they seem lifeless as there is no spirit in their eyes. After a while, the group finally arrives and they head inside the building as they ask the officer at the reception to allow them to meet Yoko. The officer asks them to shoo away as Yoko is a very busy woman. However, a girl named Kan arrives in front of them and informs the officer that Lady Yoko asked them to bring them in. However, she only wants Kabane to go with her as she orders others to wait outside. Kabane follows the lead of the girl as they head to a small meeting room. Kan kicks Kabane and he falls right into the room in front of Yoko. Kabane, as always, doesn't care as he just sits on the chair in front of Yoko. Yoko looks at him and asks if she can check the life stone on his neck. Kabane takes it off and hands it to her as she looks at the stone and informs him that this is very precious as controlling kimono's power is very hard and that they need to feed off the emotions of humans to survive. Therefore, if they can mass-produce things like this, they wouldn't need to coexist with useless humans. Saying this, she cuts off Kabane's head and asks Kan to put it in a suitcase so it won't grow back. She also orders Kan to dispose of Kabane's friends. Afterward, she takes the life stone and heads outside to leave the police station. Shiki and Akira are waiting outside when Kan comes up to them in the form of Kabane. However, after hearing Shiki address Yoko as an old granny, she gets angry and accidentally reveals her true form. She laughs as she informs them that now they have learned of the truth, she just needs to dispose of them right now. She starts to throw fireballs at them as everything starts to burn. Shiki uses his web ability to pull some stuff and use it as a shield to guard himself and Akira. He then thinks of something and snatches the suitcase from Kan's hand. He then opens the suitcase, which reveals Kabane's head as he asks Shiki to just throw him at Kan and assures that he will take care of her. Shiki adheres to his plan and throws his head towards Kan. Midair, Kabane opens his mouth and bites on Kan's shoulder, which leaves her paralyzed as she falls unconscious. Shiki runs towards him and grabs his head, which has blood on his mouth. Soon a new body grows from the head as Kabane is back on his feet, completely fine. He wipes off the blood from his face as Shiki takes off his jacket and throws it at him. He then places his fist in front of him and asks him to do the same, as it's called bro fisting. Kabane and the kids head outside where they meet Kohachi, who has just arrived. The kids complain to Kohachi as they explain what happened. Kohachi apologizes to them, but he is glad that they are safe. He also asks Kabane if the lucky charm worked, and Kabane answers him that indeed it did. Meanwhile, Yoko is happy that she got her hands on the life stone, but it suddenly starts to melt inside her hand as it becomes a doll. At that same time, she receives a call from Kohachi, who informs her that he is quite disappointed in her. Yoko is very angry at him and cuts the call. Kohachi wants to take revenge on her, but Yoko is very powerful as she has a strong influence over the police department. Giving up the thoughts, he takes the children to have some food before they head home. Outside their office, they are suddenly attacked by Kan, but she falls unconscious before she can reach Kabane. Kohachi takes her inside and gives her some food. However, suddenly she once again attacks Kabane, but Kohachi stops her and asks her to show some manners or Yoko will be disappointed in her. Hearing Yoko's name, she becomes tame, which makes Shiki and the others laugh at her for being too easy to read. At that same moment, a customer walks into the office as Kohachi asks everyone to get ready. While Kohachi talks with the man as he drinks and explains his problems to Kohachi, the kids are sitting behind them as Kabane can't help but ask, why is there a bar in the office? Shiki explains that it's a past relic and suggests he never ask for this from Kohachi as it's quite a sensitive topic for him as it involves his previous partner. Kohachi learns from the man that the problem is love. He has fallen in love with a woman named Mao, and he wants Kohachi to resolve his problem and help him get together with her. The kids are listening to their talks, and when they bring up the topic of love, they get all excited, especially Akira, who likes cute things like love. Shiki is disgusted as he only likes cool things and romance isn't for him. However, Akira tells him that he was born because his parents were in love. Hearing this, Kabane is enlightened as he realizes that Hyonos are born out of love as he curiously asks Kohachi about it. Kohachi tells him that love can't be explained and can only be understood by experiencing it. Kohachi agrees to help the man as he asks the kids to go with him and experience the love themselves. Kohachi also informs Khan that if she completes this mission, he will give Kabane's head to her. With this, the group is set to leave with the man and help him find the woman named Mao. The man thanks Kohachi as he stands up to leave. However, he suddenly locates a rat and chases after it to attack it. He then showcases his collection of dead rats that he has hunted in the past. Kohachi realizes that it's a case of a Nekomata kimono. The following day, the group and the man are waiting outside an adult area. The man tells them that he met Mao here and he might see her pass by from this place. While they are waiting, a cat with two tails appears outside. The kids recognize that she may be that Mao lady as kimono can take human shapes. They follow her for a while until they reach an empty street where they reveal themselves and ask the cat if she's Mao. The cat turns back into her human form as the man tells them that it's her. Mao laughs as she informs them that this man will turn into a cat as soon as he has been seduced by her. However, Kabane tells her that it's not seduction but love. The man then proceeds to tell Mao that before she came into his life, he was all alone as if he was stuck in eternal darkness. She was the bright light for him which gave him hope. Mao is raised by his words and starts to date him. Later, the mission is complete, so Khan asks for her reward. Kohachi asks her to close her eyes as he gives Kabane's head to her. After Khan exits the office, Kohachi asks Kabane to pull open up his hoodie, which reveals a complete Kabane without any scratch. The head in Khan's hand was nothing but a neat trick from Kohachi. One day, Kohachi receives another mission to resolve a problem near a river. He chose Kabane and Akira for that, as in the last mission, Akira couldn't participate. Later, Kabane is waiting for Akira at the location when Akira arrives in a sewage diving equipment suit. As they make their way through the sewers, Akira tells Kabane that he looks like his brother and how he used to protect him. He informs him that he and his brother used to belong to a snow kimono family who were always born as females. But he and his brother were rare males, so they were discriminated against. But his brother always used to protect him and he was very kind. Kabane asks Akira if he can use his powers because he is a kimono. Akira explains that he has powers to freeze things but he doesn't use them often. He wants to demonstrate it to Kabane by freezing the water, but suddenly they are attacked by frog monsters. Kabane fights them alone as Akira quivers in fear. But then he remembers that his brother, who always used to protect him, yells and uses his ice ability to freeze everything around him. He opens his eyes as he looks at all the ice around him. He can't believe he did that, so he wants to take a selfie with Kabane so he can showcase it to Shiki later. Later, the Elder Frog thanks Kohachi, who appears in the form of a tanuki. The tanuki tells the Elder Frog to thank the children and not him and promises that he will meet him later. Kabane is cleaning the hallway when he notices a bunch of card boxes blocking a door. He is reminded of the warning from Kohachi, who told him to never open the door. However, Kabane is curious and opens the door with the intention of cleaning and ends up being grabbed by something and taken inside. Later, Shiki and Akira complain to Kohachi that they haven't seen Kabane since morning. Kohachi remembers that Kabane was supposed to clean today and that he was cleaning the hallways. Thinking of hallways, Kohachi realizes that Kabane must have gone inside that room. He quickly runs to that room and opens the door to head inside. He finds Kabane following the orders of a vampire who has been living in this room, Mihai. He excitedly asks Kohachi as to where he got such a submissive and obedient child. Kohachi informs Mihai that Kabane isn't his property or anything and that he is just working here. Although Mihai wants to appoint Kabane to be his wait person, Kohachi doesn't listen to his yapping and takes all of them out of the room. He explains to them about Mihai, how he used to be a talented programmer and how he built their sites and even a surveillance system to protect them from cyber attacks from organizations such as the police department under Yoko. However, he got bored of working when he found an MMO game that hooked him to the internet and he became a NEET. Later, Shiki and Akira enter Mihai's room where they find Kabane serving him. They ask Mihai to free Kabane when he challenges them to a match of arm wrestling. Shiki accepts his challenge but easily loses, so Kabane challenges him and even he loses to Mihai. Later, Kabane is out grocery shopping when he sits outside a park and thinks about being weak. He thinks to himself that if he had transformed, he would have won. But he quickly suppresses the urge when suddenly Khan appears behind him, so he hides his face in his hoodie. However, Khan is not falling for the same trick twice as she tells him to take it off. She then informs him that he doesn't need to hide as she is no longer after his head. It's because she was rejected by Yoko. When she went back, instead another fox kimono replaced her. Suddenly, Kabane challenges Khan to a fight in which Khan loses once again. She starts to cry for being too weak, so Kabane holds her hand until she falls asleep. Kabane does not wake her up until the night when he wakes up and tells her that he needs to go grocery shopping. He also allows her to live with them, but Khan declines as her kind isn't suited to live with Tanuki, who is Kohachi. Instead, she asks him if she can live with him, which Kabane allows, but he asks her to wait until he is done with his grocery chores. Later, Kabane returns home to find the kids sitting around Mihai, who informs them of a mission. He explains that Kohachi is busy taking care of another mission, so they need to take care of this. The mission is to investigate a company that had a very high rate of people unaliving themselves, but suddenly one day, their bad reports stopped and the company even started to perform better. Shiki uses his invisibility ability to infiltrate while Kabane and Akira wait outside. An RC car follows Shiki, which also can turn transparent and be used remotely from hundreds of miles away. After searching for a while, Shiki discovers a group of people working even when they seem extremely tired. One of the men can't bear it and runs outside, but a woman stops him. She takes him to another room where there is another woman, who turns into a mosquito-type kimono and sucks out the man's brain through his ears. Shiki, who is watching this all happen, gets extremely afraid, but he still tries to calm himself. Aside from the two women, there is another woman. After a short while, the man stands up and heads back to working mindlessly. Kabane and others are watching this too through the cameras on the RC car and want to attack the kimonos, but Shiki tells them to calm down as they seem very strong and Akira isn't in any shape to help them. Mihai doesn't like what's happening, so he decides to spice things up. He uses his RC car to get the attention of one of the mosquitoes, who eventually discovers Shiki but doesn't alert her fellow kimonos. After her fellow sisters have gone, she comes up to Shiki and wants to suck him out. Shiki is paralyzed in fear and can't move, so Mihai has no choice but to use RC's car's shocking function to paralyze the woman. Meanwhile, Kabane and Akira are also making their way toward the building when they are spotted by one of the mosquitoes, kimonos. But Kabane is strong and takes care of her and grabs her inside. On the other hand, Shiki gets roasted by Mihai, who calls him weak and stupid. But Kabane intervenes and tells Shiki that they are making their way toward him and gives him the courage to fight. Shiki slams the RC car in anger to shut down the yapping of Mihai, but this makes his hands bleed and also gives him the courage to stand up. The woman recovers and wants to attack, but Shiki disappears again. This time the woman uses her hypersensitive ability to locate him, but she detects his signs everywhere, which makes her confused. When she runs out of stamina, Shiki jumps on top of her from above and he slams her head down. The woman, who is now chained by the webs, gets knocked out instantly. Kabane and Akira also arrive with another woman in their hands as Shiki chains her too. But at that same time, the last woman arrives and she seems super strong. She sucks the both women till they are dry and transforms into her complete form. Shiki tries to attack her with his webs, but he gets slammed by the woman and falls unconscious. Akira isn't any different, as she is unable to use her ice power without any water. Only Kabane can fight her, but he too isn't able to move once caught by her, but he still isn't willing to give up as his body is more excited than ever before. Just when he starts to struggle, he hears Mihai S's voice, who explains to him how to use Kimono's power. He tells them to concentrate on his heart and follow his instincts. Soon Kabane's hair turns red as an extremely strong force runs through his body. He tears off the arms of the woman who was holding her and stands in front of her with a menacing expression. But this time he is in control of himself, which is different than the last time he transformed. Before he can do anything to the woman, a man appears behind them and takes care of all three women. Kohachi, who has also come out of his room, orders Kabane to let the man do anything he wants as he's the person on the job. The man introduces himself as Nabimaru, a new fox kimono under Yoko. After taking care of things, he advises Kabane to be cautious as Lady Yoko has still yet to give up on his lifestyle. Kabane thanks him and promises he won't tell anyone. Nabimaru nods at him as he informs him that he is only telling him this because he doesn't like Lady Yoko. Later, Kohachi gives a lesson to Mihai for sending the kids on such a dangerous mission, but his defense is that this will make the children grow stronger. Kohachi can't debate this, so he gives up. On the other hand, Kabane keeps on thinking about something but can't place his finger on it. After a whole lot of thinking, he finally realizes that he promised to meet up with Khan, but he got busy, so he kind of forgot. Later, Kabane heads to the park where he last met Khan. He calls her name as she comes out of the tree. She is sad that he didn't visit her on time, so Cabane explains that he got busy and distracted, so he kind of forgot. Khan is sad because she caught some fish and wanted to eat them with him, but they are now rotten. They don't know that someone is watching them from behind and lament at Cabane for not following his advice and staying away from foxes. One day, Kohachi is taking the kids to head to Shiki's home village to find clues about his parents. The reason is that after coming so close to death, he suddenly desired to find his parents and confirm whether they were alive or dead. After a while, they finally reach the town, where they do some window shopping. As they are looking through stuff, they come across an ancient folklore about spiders which seems very interesting. The lore is about a man saving a spider who in return gave him a lot of golden spider silk which made him rich in one night. They ask Shiki about it and he answers them that this legend has been here for a long time. As they are discussing it, Shiki notices a young girl staring at him, but before he can talk to her, she runs away. Later, Kohachi arrives with Shiki's uncle, Tademaru. They walk past the stream in the forest as they discuss various things. However, Kohachi asks him to come to the main topic, as Tademaru tells them about the time when he and his brother, who were interested in the ancient legend about golden silk in this town, one day headed to the forest to look for it. Like every other folklore, all of them are based on somewhat true stories. There in the forest, they met the ancient spider Kimono, who fell in love with Shiki's father and later had him. He wants to explain further, but he stops as Kohachi asks the kids to go on as they talk about it alone. Later, Cabane and Akira learn from Shiki that his parents are dead. His father died before his mother gave birth to him, while his mother died when he was 5. To cope with his sadness, he tries to act tough and not cry. But Cabane notices this and points it out, which makes him very angry. Akira joins too, as she informs Cabane that it's insensitive to talk like this. Later, they are in the public bath, when Nobamaru joins them too. He even accompanies them when they head to the forest late at night. There Shiki is reminded of something as he runs after his thoughts. He follows the path that he remembers from his childhood memories and reaches an old abandoned house. He finally recovered his memory when he was 5 and went to this place. Here, he found his mother being tortured by a disgusting-looking kimono while countless other experimental objects were lying down in all corners of the house. The last thing he remembers is that someone hit him on the forehead. He opens the door but doesn't find anything except an injection. Nobamaru picks up the injection and remembers an incident that he learned in the reports, which stated that some time ago, a person managed to create a magical golden thread that could even stitch organs and help them recover. This was a great breakthrough, but as it was related to experiments on kimonos, it was stopped and put to a halt. The person who was on the reports was none other than Shiki's uncle, Tademaru. Shiki swears to himself that he will take revenge. Nobamaru asks him if he would kill his uncle, and Shiki answers that he will kill him and make him suffer. He asks Cabane if he would stop him, but he assures him that he won't. Shiki is surprised as he thought he would stop him, but Cabane tells him that he doesn't care as to him killing a person, and an insect is no different. You kill when you decide to kill. On the other hand, Kohachi takes Tademaru on a walk as he records everything that he says. He asks him about the golden silk, which leads Tademaru into accepting everything. After Tademaru has stopped saying the things he needs to say, Kohachi shows him the recording as he signals Shiki to do whatever he wants. Shiki uplifts Tademaru with his web strings and promises him that he will make him suffer. But before Shiki can do anything, Akira comes running towards them as he complains about them running away all of a sudden, leaving him alone in this dark and creepy forest. He keeps on yapping when suddenly a weird-looking monster appears behind him. Before it can do anything, Kohachi shoots it down and saves Akira. However, the monster doesn't die after one shot and attacks them again, but this time in different segments. One of them bites on Kohachi's arm as he becomes unable to conjure his weapons. On Shiki's side, a lot of monsters appear out of the forest. They are in all shapes and sizes as they stare at Shiki and the others who are in the middle of them. Tademaru is lowered by one of these monsters as he introduces Shiki to his siblings. He calls them his siblings as they were created from his experiments using his mother. Hearing his words, the monster starts to say loving things to him, which reminds him of her mother. Shiki breaks down and starts crying. Nobamaru, who is watching this all happen and considers it as an amusement, is sad that Shiki broke this quickly. However, unlike Shiki, Cabane is very enraged as once again his hair turns red as the strength from his kimono roots flows into his body. He asks Shiki if he needs any help, to which Shiki nods and asks him to help him. Before helping Shiki, Cabane orders Nobamaru to shut up and not speak again. On Kohachi's side, he is suffering a lot as the poison makes him unable to summon his pistols, which makes him useless. So to stop the poison, he orders Akira to freeze his arm. Akira follows his order and freezes his arm till it can't be frozen anymore. This makes him even more useless, but fortunately, that same child from the shop appears before them and orders the monsters to not attack Kohachi and Akira. Kohachi asks the girl for her name, but she stops him and instead orders him to follow her if he wants to heal his arm and detoxify it. Back on Shiki's side, Cabane is kicking down the asses of the monsters, but they are like so many of them, so it's taking him some time to finish them. Shiki realizes this and begs Cabane to save him, which gives Cabane even more power as he gets even stronger. Nobamaru also asks him to save him, but Cabane ignores him, so he just uses his techniques to burn them down. Meanwhile, the little girl leads Kohachi to the spring where he uses its water to detoxify himself. Kohachi is amazed at the water's properties and images if there is any reason behind it. On the other hand, Cabane has finished up all of the monsters as he grabs Tademaru, throws him towards Shiki, and asks him to finish the job. Shiki thanks Cabane for killing all the monsters and not making him dirty his hands with the blood of monsters who were created by her mother. He tells Cabane that he is strong and a true man, unlike him who always messes things up. Just when he is about to finish his uncle, the little girl shouts at him and makes him stop. She begs them to not kill Tademaru as she asks him about the location of the cocoon. Tademaru, who has been keeping calm ever since, suddenly loses his patience as he yells at the little girl, whom he calls Aya, to go back home. However, Aya tells him that this won't be over until he tells him about the cocoon. This makes Tademaru smirk as he tells her that he won't ever tell her where that cocoon is. This makes Shiki think to himself as to why his uncle, who has never cared about anything, cares so much about the cocoon and the little girl. He then realizes that his uncle's greatest mission in his life was to leave something behind. So he orders his uncle to shut the frick up and asks Aya if she has any leads. However, little Aya knows nothing, but Kohachi assures her that they will help her find the cocoon. He calls Mihai and asks him to give him the locations of those places where Tademaru frequently visited. Mihai uses the data and finds the places, which are his own home, his sister-in-law's house, another location, and a cliff near a flower bed. Hearing flowers makes Aya realize where the cocoon is, as no wonder the spring has detoxing abilities. She runs towards the spring and wants to swim inside, but Shiki stops her and instead goes inside himself to find the cocoon. However, inside, he finds that the cocoon is none other than his mother. He takes her outside and presents it in front of Aya. Tademaru watches this all happen as he knows that it's over for him. However, Shiki spares his life as suffering from the misery of failing to achieve his life goal will make him suffer much more than death. Kohachi takes the kids as well as Aya and Shiki's mom with him to his place. Meanwhile, Nobamaru takes care of Tademaru behind, leaving no evidence. Meanwhile, Kohachi takes Shiki's mom and other kids to a kimono doctor, who invites them in after hearing that the patient is a kimono this time. After checking on Shiki's mom, the old lady doctor assures them that she will be fine, although it will take some time for her to heal completely. She tells them about the damage to her body and the time required to heal them properly. While Akira heads to take a bath and Cabane heads to sleep, Shiki stays with her mom and sits beside her bed the whole night. Outside of the room, Aya wants to come in, but she hesitates as she was the reason that her mother was injured this badly. After Tademaru learned that she was the golden silk, he kept her in captivity and even beat her up when she did something wrong. She spent her whole life thinking about when her mother would heal and they would escape from this place and head outside to meet her big brother. Just as she is thinking about all the negative things, she hears Shiki's voice, who invites her in. Shiki assures little Aya that she is not a stranger and that his mother is her mother too. Aya gets happy and wonders if she can call him big brother, to which Shiki gets embarrassed but still agrees to her request, which makes little Aya very happy, just as they are having an emotional reunion. Their mother wakes up as she hugs both of her children. She assures them that she will never leave them again. The following day, everyone finds that Shiki's mom has woken up and congratulates him. They also wish for her fast recovery and head home while Shiki stays with his mother and little Aya. The following few days, Akira misses Shiki as he has always been around him. He asks Cabane if he misses him too, to which he answers that he doesn't, as Shiki has a family now and that he feels happy for him. Just as Akira is wondering whether Shiki will ever come back or not, he comes in and says hello to everyone. He assures them that he will never leave until he has helped Cabane look for his parents. He fist bumps his friend as Cabane fist bumps back too. Just then Aya appears from behind too, and this time she is not as well spoken as before as she speaks rudely to everyone, except Cabane, whom she has fallen in love with after watching him fight those monsters the other day. She asks Cabane if she can go out with him and he allows her. Shiki falls unconscious as he can't believe what he is hearing. Aya hugs Cabane's arm as she now considers him her boyfriend. Just then Khan happens to walk into the office and finds Aya sticking like glue to her beloved Cabane, which makes her extremely angry. Kohachi sits on his office chair as he watches all of this drama happen. Afterward, he announces to the group a mission that involves a kimono attacking pretty ladies and tearing off their faces such as lips and noses. Akira faints after hearing this, so the mission falls on Aya and Cabane. However, Khan wants to accompany them too, as she doesn't want to fall behind Aya, who stares at her with contempt. Later, the group arrives at the scene where a police officer blocks their path. Kon gets haughty as she wants to flaunt her status as Inari's spokesperson. However, the policeman doesn't take her seriously, so Kabane takes her place and informs the policeman that they are here to resolve the kimono case. The policeman immediately becomes serious and guides the group inside. After entering, they walk through the streets when suddenly Kon starts to get angry at herself for being useless, so she separates from them to find the kimono on her own. Kabane and Aya are searching for kimono when suddenly something grabs Aya's hair and takes her in the air. However, Kabane can't see anything, so he just punches the air as Aya drops down. Soon a kimono forms in front of them as Kon appears behind them too. Kabane uses talk no jutsu to resolve the problem. Later, they return as Aya tells them how she used her powers to grant a beautiful body to Kimono so she won't attack other females ever again. After finishing the mission, Kabane heads to the park where he drags Kon from the tree. Kon starts to cry, so Kabane places his hand on her cheek so she will feel good. This trick indeed works as Kon becomes happy and swears that she will try her best to become his number one. The following day, Shiki's mother, who has now completely healed up, thanks Kohachi for saving her and always taking care of her son. She places Shiki and Aya in his care. Later, Aya and Kon are fighting once again over Kabane when Akira asks him to decide on one lover. Kabane understands, but he tells him that if he were to choose one person, that would be Kohachi. Both the girls glare at Kohachi and start to yell at him. Akira's big brother Yui has come to Tokyo to find his younger brother. He is searching for him when he bumps into a stranger who has a group of mobs around him. They demand money from him for dirtying their clothes. However, Yui doesn't care and just shows them a weird-looking poster and asks them if they know this man Kohachi. The group laughs at him and tells him to just pay the money and frick off. But Yui doesn't like their attitude, so he just freezes them. Meanwhile, Akira is crying in the office because his plushie got slit open. He considers that plushie to be his big brother as it looks like him. Fortunately, Mihai is a master in such works and helps him stitch the plushie, and this time he even installs an artificial intelligence system in the plushie to make it even more like his big brother. Akira is very happy as he names the plushie his big brother. In a flashback, we learn about how Akira was always a crybaby, but Yui helped him always. He took care of him and tried to give him all the happiness. However, as rare males in the whole clan, they were shunned and forced to stay in captivity. Their mother died while giving birth to them, while their father became crazy as they caged him in a cell. Back to the present time, Kohachi gives them a task to find some hidden items in the sand, but Akira accidentally trips and causes it to get everywhere. He keeps on messing things up until Shiki finally gets up and yells at him for being stupid and useless. But Kabane assures him that even though he is useless, he won't mind his existence in this place. This hurts Akira even more as he decides to leave the house to learn about the world and grow up to be a stronger man like his brother. While he is out looking for places to sleep, he stumbles into Yui. In another flashback, we learn even more about the twins as they start to grow up and accidentally learn about the world from a diary and magazine in a traveler's bag. They dream of escaping to Tokyo and living amongst other people. The diary also mentions Kohachi, who is a chemist and a specialist in dealing with kimonos. They decide to meet him and see if he can help them. Back to the present time, Akira is following the lead of his big brother when he suddenly stops and buys a crate from the shop. He gives it to Yui, but he refuses and asks him to eat it. Akira insists. But after seeing Yui decline again, he happily starts to eat it. They keep on walking till it's eventually nighttime when they suddenly stop near a forest. There Yui creates an ice castle on Akira's demand and locks him inside. He even freezes his phone and destroys it, so he won't be able to use it anymore. After locking him inside, he heads outside without saying anything. Back home, Shiki and Kabane try to do housework but realize that they really can't live without Akira, so they both decide to get him back. However, they don't know where he has gone as he has been missing since this morning. Just then, they hear on the news about an ice castle appearing in the middle of the forest, so they realize that Akira might be there. They head to that place instantly, where they notice Yui coming out of the castle to harm the people outside watching the ice castle. Kohachi shoots him in the hand, but instead of bleeding, some ice shards drop down. Kohachi realizes that something is fishy as he looks at Yui's neck where a stone similar to a life stone is hanging. He recognizes it to be Null Stone, a special stone that enhances the powers instead of suppressing them. He tries to reason with Yui, but Yui doesn't want to listen to them. Soon, Yui comes to Akira, who is talking with the plushie. Hearing his brother's footsteps, he shuts it down as Yui asks him to come out. Akira follows his brother but gets horrified when he notices Kabane and the others are frozen at the door of the castle. Akira asks Yui as to what this is, but Yui doesn't understand as he explains that he has prepared everything as he asked, a bathtub and other stuff. He also informs him that his friends tried to enter the castle forcefully, so he froze them. After saying all of this, he leaves, while Akira keeps standing in front of the frozen statues as he cries because he thinks that they all are dead. But Plushie tells him that they are still alive as their life force is still preserved. Akira then asks the plushie as to how to unfreeze them, as if he doesn't do it, they will eventually die. The plushie suggests he drops them in a salt bath, which will make them melt faster. Meanwhile, Yui is searching for a plant as he thinks about his past. In another flashback, Yui becomes the chief of the tribe instead of Akira. Then he learns the true horrors as all the women in the tribe abuse him, as he is the only male in the tribe. However, despite all the suffering, seeing the smile on his brother's face is enough to make him forget about all the pain. Back to the present time, Yui returns when Akira complains to him about the cold water and asks him to bring back salt and water heater for him. Yui accepts the task as he gives the plant stalk to Akira and leaves. Outside, Yoko arrives with Nabemaru as she stares at the ice castle. She realizes that such an ice ability can't be used without a special power and concludes that this must be the work of Nullstone. Inside the castle, Akira is thinking about his brother's behavior as to how he has been treating him recently and wonders if something happened. Just then he notices that the statue of Kabane is melting rapidly as soon as he breaks out from the ice. Akira urges him to wear his pants as he is naked. He then starts to ask Kabane as to what happened, so he explains everything to him. After learning about the sudden change in his brother, Akira doesn't know what to do. He doesn't want his brother to hurt his friends, and he also doesn't want them to hurt his brother too. While he is stuck in this dilemma, Kabane urges him to come back as both he and Shiki realize that without him, there is no fun in being in the office. Akira isn't listening to him and asks him to stop. He only knows one way to stop Kabane and the others, so he lies to him that he doesn't like them, and now that he has found his brother back, he will leave with him and never come back. Kabane isn't able to understand what he is saying. He wants to say something, but Yui arrives with the salt. But before he can say anything, Akira tells him that he has gotten bored of the castle and that now he wants to go somewhere else, probably a beach. Yui agrees to his demands as he leaves with him. Inside the castle, the plushie asks Kabane to place him inside the underarms of Kohachi. Just then, Yoko barges into the castle as she talks to Kabane about the Null Stone. She mentions that the Null Stone may be connected to the mystery of his parents and asks if he is interested or not. Outside, Akira is following Yui, who asks if he is alright. Akira nods as Yui continues to think about the past. In another flashback, we learn that a few years after Yui became the chief, he learns that Akira has finally matured and might become the second chief and be used by the tribe's women. So he gathers all women and orders them to allow Akira to leave the village, and if they don't, he will unalive himself right here on this platform. The woman gives in to his demands and frees Akira. However, later he learns that they deceived him and sent some people to assassinate Akira outside the village. This makes him very angry as he complains, but the tribe doesn't listen to him, so he heads to the summit where the Null Stone is placed. Back in the present time, Yui is attacked by Nabemaru. Yui becomes cautious and seals his brother first. Then he starts his counterattack against the crafty fox. Meanwhile, inside the castle, Yoko suggests Kabane chase after Akira and save him. Kohachi, who speaks with the help of the plushie, tells him the same. Kabane accepts their suggestions and chases after Yui and Akira. Nabemaru is struggling heavily against Yui and even loses one of his hands as a result. He is on his last legs, but fortunately, Kabane comes on time and rescues him. Kabane tries to fight Yui, but his ice abilities are way too difficult to fight, so Nabemaru suggests that Kabane let him burn his body with his flames, which will make Yui's ice weak against him. Using this tactic, they can push back Yui, but he gets up very quickly and starts to copy their techniques. On the other hand, Akira frees himself from the cell by converting the mist into a giant ice ball to crush the cage. He then runs towards the fight to stop his brother from killing his friends. Meanwhile, Kabane realizes that this much heat isn't enough, so he asks Nabemaru to increase the intensity, even though that will make him melt after a few moments. But those moments are enough for Kabane to defeat Yui as he charges for his final attack, but Akira comes in between them and stops them in their paths. Kabane melts down and falls as Nabemaru picks up his hand and throws it towards Yui. He grows back and spits out the lifeblood stone, which merges with the Null Stone, thus saving Yui's life, who was sacrificing his life force for all power. Just then, Yoko arrives at the scene and picks up the new merged stone. However, Kohachi advises her to return it, so she obliges to his advice and leaves. Nabemaru also leaves with her, even though Kabane offers to heal his hand using Aya's ability. The following day, Yui has recovered a lot from his injuries, so Kabane asks him about the Null Stone. He answers that after the stone heard his resentments, it fused with him and gave him the power. However, when he opened his eyes, there was only white snow around him and nothing else. Hearing this, Kohachi concludes that to find Kabane's parents and solve the mystery of these stones, they need to find the locations of stones such as these and possibly combine them. These events might be connected to the Great War between the humans and kimonos 1,000 years ago. After a few days, Kohachi learns from a source that one of such stones was recently found somewhere, so he takes Kabane with him to find it. Kan decides to tag along as she promises that Lady Yoko will pay for the trip. With this, the group sets on another adventure as a whole lot of mysteries await their path. Will Cabane be able to find his parents? To know, keep on watching these recaps.